Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Who Are You podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Connor Overbay. Also got the wifey over there, Shannon Overbay. If this is y'all's first time checking out the Who Are You podcast, welcome, welcome, welcome. Make sure to give us a follow, a like, a subscribe on all of our social media. It's going to be at Who Are You Pod from everything from Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all the normal spots. You guys know where to find us nowadays. And make sure you guys check out the YouTube channel. We've been doing it for about a year now. We're very happy with the growth, so make sure you guys leave a like and a subscribe on there. It's going to be Who Are You podcast. But today, sitting down with a very, very special guest, a gentleman who probably doesn't even really need an introduction. I say, you guys probably seen his face all over the internet, whether it's through his social work or going and spreading the good word of Project Opioid, working with the local community. Today, we're sitting down with Mr. TJ Ward. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. And just to give a little background knowledge on everything, we met a couple years ago. We've spoken about the Southside Businessmen's Club multiple times, and I was really taken when you came in and did your presentation on everything. Obviously, with all the stuff that's going on with the opioid situation throughout the United States and throughout the world, it was really cool to sit down and listen to that. As us being the youngest people usually in that room there, it really spoke to us, because that's something that affects, everybody, but especially us as growing up and seeing people who may not be here anymore from a situation like that. And like I said, it was amazing to sit down and hear everything that you have going on.
Yeah, it's extremely unfortunate what has happened and what continues, to take place as a result of this crisis. But there has been some good news in recent years, so we're cautiously optimistic. I don't think it's ever completely going away, but we're going to do the best we can to reduce overdose deaths and to help people get the resources they need to get healthy.
Definitely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And before we get too far into the conversation, if you guys want to if you want to let them know where they can follow, the mission, you on social media, anything you would like to promote here at the beginning.
Yeah, so Project Opioid is at Project Opioid Jax on Instagram and Facebook. We talked about the podcast a little bit before we got on air.
Yes, sir.
Speak Easy Jax is on social media platforms as well. Instagram, Facebook, X, or
Twitter,
formerly known as Twitter.
I always call it Twitter still.
And then iTunes, podcast stuff, as well as Spotify and YouTube. So
nice.
My personal handle is at TJ Ward FL, and I'm mostly on Instagram and Facebook.
Nice.
I have an X, but I'm rarely on it. So
I'm the same. I just don't know what to tweet or what's it called now, Xing, whatever you want to send out in the world. No, that's, like I said, it's awesome to see everything you've been involved in. Say me and Shannon, whenever we sit down with a new guest, we always do a deep dive into your background, and it seems like you've had your hands in a lot, whether it's through your fitness journey. We've seen the Spartan races that you do. Yeah. Obviously, Speak Easy. Whenever I saw that come through, and I saw the guests you had, I was like, whoa! I was like Mark Brunell. Who else? We were talking about. You had the CEO of CSX on there.
Yeah.
That's a hard get. That's the one I've been trying to get on the pod for a long time. So it was interesting to see him sit down. I was like, oh, wow. You don't see him in public too often when it comes to interviews.
Such a great guy. We've had the fortunate privilege of talking to so many of the leaders in Jacksonville, and obviously that's because of the connection of my co-host, Daniel Davis, the CEO of Jax Chamber. So he knows all those people really well. I know a few of them, but again, through him. So he's been able to get them to come on the podcast, and just hearing their stories, it's just fascinating. And the cool thing about it is they're just people like us, but they've worked really hard, and sometimes they've gotten opportunities that not everybody gets, and they've made the most of them, and they're really humble and nice people. So it's been a real privilege to get to know them, and then also just fun doing the podcast.
Oh yeah, that's the thing.
As you well know.
I say this is something that we've enjoyed for 3 years now, and just getting to sit down and meet our local community. As I was telling you before we started the podcast, I was born and raised here, and whenever I was growing up, I wasn't the biggest fan of Jacksonville personally. I was going around, I was a normal 15, 16-year-old, wanting to burn the world down, wanted to move out of my home city, and then decide to stay here and go to college, right? And I found my way of just wanting to get involved with my community more than just coming home, sitting on the couch, watching TV every day and doing nothing. So that's where the kind of our start of the podcast really started. And, being in the Southside Businessmen's Club, also me being very extroverted, going around meeting people, we just kind of just shook hands and met anybody we can, including you. Like I said, meeting you at the Southside Businessmen's Club was cool. And, now a year or something later, we finally got to sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah. And look at you. This is what episode is this?
170.
And so you're putting out content weekly, right? For the last I guess 3 years now.
Yes, sir.
And look at your studio. It's amazing. People can't see the outside
Yes,
of it,
sir.
but this is actually your apartment.
Yep.
And we won't tell people where you live, but this is cool what y'all have done, how you've transformed this space into a little studio. It's really
Thank
cool.
you.
We're very proud of it.
Yeah.
You should be.
Yeah,
You should be.
it just took some time, a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears, and because we were originally, for the first year and a half, 2 years, we were just audio.
Right.
And I would post little like social clips on social media, and then I found out really what the podcast game is constant content,
Right.
putting things out. If you want eyeballs out there, say me and Shannon post a video a day almost every single time when it comes to sitting down for an interview. So just putting stuff out there, putting out pertinent information that people would want to hear, and like we've grown just through talking to the amazing people here in Jacksonville.
Are y'all on TikTok?
Yes, sir.
I'm on it, but I don't post anything. I just scroll through it. What do they call it? Death scroll? What
Me,
is it?
death scrolling, yeah.
But I love it. There's a lot of good stuff. But I hear constantly creators saying that you post once a day. It'll catch. If you do it for a year, you'll be making money off of it. So I don't know if you've seen that yet, if y'all have done it for a year now, but
We've been
supposed to
lucky.
be able to.
Yeah, we've been lucky with it. One of our sponsors is BetterHelp. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. So
absolutely.
Yes, BetterHelp sponsored us about a year and a half ago. Shout out to them. And one of the big reasons for that is like we're big on mental health as well with us. Me growing up, hardcore depression, had issues with that side of things, and therapy was a very helpful thing with me. And with us sitting down with many veterans or people who are police officers or maybe who've gone through certain things, obviously I'm sure you've heard many stories through that. We're just big on putting it out there, right? I'm not the biggest fan of everybody's just highlight reel. I want to hear who made you, right? Yeah. I'm sure you've been through things. We've all gone and survived different situations or lived through different situations that make us who we are today. And that's the nitty gritty that I like to listen to because we've all been through something, at least if you've had an interesting life, we've all been through something, right?
Right.
And I think putting those stories out there that can reach people who maybe are in a similar situation is the main important thing for this.
And as we think about the overdose crisis, which I know we're going to get into in a minute, but the mental health crisis kind of goes along with that, is co-occurring. And, thinking back to 2020 and the pandemic, and I hate bringing it up sometimes, but that's really where we saw a spike in overdose deaths because you had all these people that didn't have access to mental health like they were used to or to the medications that they were used to getting to help them stay off substances. And so, you had people turning to those illicit substances, in some cases not even knowing that they were fentanyl-laced pills. They think they're getting a Xanax to help them with their depression or their anxiety, and they, died at record rates. And so the mental health part of that is intertwined with people that struggle with substance use.
No, I agree. And then it's the whole, you get in a routine, right? During that time, during COVID time, you're stuck at home. You have nowhere to go. It's, with what the news was putting out there, you would die if you go out and hug your family or anything. It was just a super scary time. Me and Shannon, we had a roommate move out at us during that time. We both lost our jobs in the restaurant industry at that time. Super scary time. And obviously we were, in my opinion, we were lucky to be here in Florida where we weren't quite as, our government wasn't quite as aggressive with what you can and can't do.
Absolutely.
Being able to go outside, obviously it was a huge thing. Being able to go, like for me, I'm an avid golfer, right? Going out golfing, getting outside, still doing the 6 feet and everything out there. But, just being cooped up, let's say, I couldn't even imagine being in New York or like where there's millions and millions of people on top of each other. And it's basically just, it's death if you go outside. And that was a very scary time.
Yeah. I lived in North Carolina during that time.
Oh, wow.
And it was primarily a Democratic state and very shut down.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons I moved back to Jacksonville in 2021 was because of that.
Oh, really?
It was
Okay.
open and free, and you could kind of breathe a little bit.
I feel like a lot of people moved here during that, after period, and just were like, okay, we see what's happening here in Jacksonville or Florida in general.
Florida.
So
Here in Texas, we were the two spots,
That's true.
Yeah.
And now people are still coming, to Florida and to Texas, and I'm sure you're a listener of Joe Rogan, or at least
I love me some
respect
Rogan.
what he's done. Yeah,
I'll say I love me some Rogan.
Just thinking about people like that moving from California to to places like Texas or Florida, just to be able to have some liberties that they didn't have.
Of course, it was a big thing. And are you from Jacksonville?
I was born and raised.
Nice.
Lived in North Carolina for about 11 years.
Okay.
And then relocated back in
Gotcha.
2021. So.
Yeah, and you have a couple kids yourself, right? Two daughters?
I do. I'm a single dad of two amazing young ladies.
Nice.
Two of the most impressive young ladies I know. So my oldest daughter, Daisy, is 26 years old, and she's been out of school for a while, but getting a certification to do speech pathology.
Oh, wow.
And so she's done with her schooling, got to sit for the test, and then she'll kind of get into that. But she's getting married in October. So
congrats.
I know.
Yes.
We were married in October.
Okay.
So that's a great
we were just talking about that.
Yeah.
So ironically enough, she'll be getting married in North Carolina.
Nice.
It's such a beautiful state, despite the politics that may or may not exist there.
I understand.
It's a beautiful state. And so she and her fiance got engaged in North Carolina during a visit. Was visiting some friends because primarily middle school, upper elementary, middle school, high school, that's where she lives. So she's got a lot of good memories.
That's
there.
awesome.
And just being able to have your wedding overlooking some mountains with the beautiful leaves and all that. So we're looking forward to that. It's exciting. And then my youngest daughter is turning 24 here soon.
Wow.
And she just finished her master's degree. In fact, I mentioned to y'all before we got on that I was in Alpharetta helping her get settled in her new apartment, and she started her big girl job yesterday.
Hey, shout out. That's awesome.
Whitney's doing really well, and both of them have just been nothing but positive influences in the lives of the people that they interact with, and I'm very proud of them and excited. And
that's all you can ask
what's
for.
ahead. Yeah, excited for what's ahead for them. So.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 51.
Really?
Yeah.
I was saying, you look good, man.
I appreciate that.
I was saying, when you said 27 or 26 and 24, I was like, how old was he when he had the kids? That's awesome, man.
I try to stay active and eat healthy as much as I possibly can. Of
course.
Sometimes I indulge. Sometimes probably a little bit too much, but for the most part, try to eat clean and stay active.
I understand. That was her first comment when we were doing research. She's like, he's a big dude. I'm like, I know. I was like, he stays in shape.
Yeah. No. I mentioned Daniel. We've been best friends since 8th grade. So he and I are, keep each other accountable when it comes to some of that stuff. So
that's amazing. Yeah. Say, to get into the fitness side, I know I brought up like the Spartan races and everything. That makes my stomach hurt just looking at it. What made you want to challenge yourself? And, that's not just anybody can go. You have to have some kind of, I believe, in some kind of shape to really get in there and, make it through the whole course. What made you want to push yourself and go through all that?
So I grew up an athlete, competing from the time I was young until, I graduated from college. So played football with Daniel and a couple buddies from here in Jacksonville. We played football up in Wisconsin at a small college up there, and all four of us went up there, so it was pretty cool. But always been competitive, and when you get out of school and you're not competing, you try to find some things that will allow you to still have that drive towards something. And so I came across Spartan races, and the first one I did, I was not in shape. In fact, I have a story where, I weighed at my heaviest 270 pounds. And so I ended up losing about 50 pounds. And part of the reason I did was because of those Spartan races. So
good for you.
I went and did my first one, and it was a struggle. And I said, if I'm going to do these, because I was hooked, but I was like, this is a way that I can still compete. If I'm going to do these, I need to get in shape. And so I started running and eating better, and then just kind of got into it and started traveling around doing.
That's awesome, man.
And then I ended up getting injured, so I haven't done one of those since 2020, actually, here in Jacksonville.
Oh, okay.
Tore my pec.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I had to have surgery on that.
How'd you tear the pec?
One of the obstacles where you're swinging from ring to, it's called a multi-rig. So I was swinging ring to ring, and you pull, you have to pull yourself up, and it just popped.
Yeah. I can't even imagine that feeling.
So, I've seen pictures where they're like the whole chest is bruised all the way across.
Now, it didn't rupture completely. It just had like 3 little pops, little tears, but it was still
painful. I'm sure. Yeah.
Finished the race. Fortunately, it was toward the end. It was like 2 obstacles left. But if you fail an obstacle, you have to do 30 burpees. That's the penalty.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the very next obstacle after I tore my pec was a rope climb. I couldn't do it, so I had to do the 30 burpees, and then...
Meanwhile, that includes your pec, too, going down.
I was just kind of...
doing what you could.
Gimping along.
Yep.
But anyways, that's kind of what got me into it. And,
that's amazing.
Thinking about competing and doing some things that, you would normally not do when you're my age, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm crazy or what. But.
I like it. I respect it. And what position in football did you play?
I played linebacker.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes more sense now. Okay.
And, always enjoyed attacking stuff. And so that's kind of what happened with the Spartan thing.
Gotcha.
It was a lot of fun.
I believe it. And that's the thing. I want to get a little bit better shape than what I was, because I was an athlete growing up as well. I played football for a while, more like middle school age kind of stuff. And then whenever I went into high school, I was 6'4", 240 pounds. So I was a big dude.
Wow.
But not muscular. It was just kind of a heavier set dude. Yeah. And then as the years went on, probably like puberty hit a little bit harder sophomore, junior year, and I dropped down to 170 like that.
Okay.
So I was skin and bones, and I played tight end. And I was like, I'm not going to sit here and just get smacked. This is not worth it to me. So I continued playing basketball. I was a small forward, power forward, and a center most times. And it just got to the point where I was just not going to make it to that next level. Yeah. You know, I had to have that real talk with myself, be like, hey, bud, you're not going to be the next LeBron. You got to kind of figure something else out. But I do understand the competitiveness, right? That's something that I personally enjoy doing, you know, anything that can just get those juices flowing, right? Like with doing this kind of stuff, I'm not competing with anybody, but it's always competing with myself to put out the best interview possible, edit it the best way, all that kind of stuff, continue with the clips like we were talking about. And that's kind of where I've thrown more of my energy into this. What I do for work as well is a very physical job. You know, I usually work, 9-10 hour days, nothing crazy, but I'm out in the sun, I'm up in your attic all day, so I'm just sweating to death. So that's where a lot of my physical activity comes into play nowadays.
Well, there's definitely some physical exertion, especially during the summertime in Florida, being in an attic. I used to dig pools in between, my years in college. I'd come back home and worked at a pool company and with those same guys that went and played football together. So
that's awesome.
We had a lot of fun, but it was not, without a lot of physical exertion out in the sun.
I feel that. I don't dig holes, thankfully. I'm not digging a lot of holes.
There you go.
And I know she had a question. Speaking of physical activity, she was really interested.
What was that?
The Dancing with the Stars.
Oh yeah.
She was super interested in that.
River City Dancing with the
River
Stars.
City Dancing with the Stars.
I grew up watching Dancing with the Stars, so of course that piqued my attention. I watched your video, got some moves on you.
Yeah, it was fun.
What was that like?
So, every year the Jacksonville Children's Chorus does this as their main fundraiser.
Oh,
and so they've reached out via email, and somebody nominated me to be one of the stars. So I went and sat with them, and they shared the mission, the vision of their organization, and what they're doing to help kids who normally wouldn't get an opportunity to have a world-class choral education and travel. In fact, they're out of the country right now, traveling around Greece and I don't know.
Wow, that's amazing.
Singing and doing some. If you look at their social media, you'll see kind of what they're up to. But
that's awesome.
For me, it was the kids that normally wouldn't have the opportunity, and if I could raise money to help them, and have some fun. It was, again, going back to the challenge, like. I'd never done dancing other than tearing up the clubs in the 90s, in the early and mid 90s here in Jacksonville, but nothing formal. And so for me, I saw it as a challenge, a way to help the kids. And so they pair you with a professional dancer and you come up with a routine and you perform it. You have to raise at least $10,000.
And I saw you raised over $170,000, right?
Well, not myself, but together we did.
Okay.
Yeah, together, all of the dancers, which they normally have 10, we had 8 this year, and we raised more than any other Dancing with the Stars with amazing. 8. So,
congrats, that's
and
awesome.
everybody was kind of within, I think the top person maybe raised close to $30,000, but everybody was kind of in that 20 to mid 20s.
That's amazing.
Very neat.
So it was really cool. So a lot of generous people here in Jacksonville, speaking of, such an amazing city. But we had a blast. Yeah.
And you must have put in a lot of work because you got what? Perfect score from the judges?
I did. Yeah. I was so this is my humble brag, maybe not so humble, but I was the only one to get a 10 and I got all 10s.
Wow.
So I didn't win the competition. Is primarily fundraising.
Of course.
So the top 3 were the top 3 fundraisers, but they did great dances as well. Everybody's working hard, on their dance routine. But I did get a perfect score. So
good for you.
Darren over at the Children's Chorus gave me my own little trophy for having
being the top dancer.
There we go.
So, but that's something I would point people to check out Jacksonville Children's Chorus because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And I work at the Chamber, and it's right across the street from the Chamber.
Oh, wow.
Their headquarters. I don't know if y'all have seen it downtown, but they have a pretty new headquarters that they'd be, a great guest to have on. But
definitely.
always interested. And I say the way we get all of our guests are either through recommendations or reaching out. So we're all about it because we've been very lucky enough to sit down with like the Dreams Come True Foundation here, Art with a Heart. They go and work and do art with either children who are stuck in the hospital for a long time or maybe terminally ill. So we go in there, help do therapy through the art process. Dreams Come True Foundation is awesome. That's Make-A-Wish of Jacksonville right there, and they do amazing work. They were a very early episode of ours as well. I need to get back with them because I would love to go and do more work. But no, that's awesome that you're out there and working with the kids, man, and helping get the kids fundraising and everything. That's really, those are the last pure souls that we have out here.
Yeah,
truly.
Tell you what, anything to do with kids, being hurt or underprivileged, like it just tugs at my heartstrings.
Same.
And I'll start crying if I, if I see somebody, a kid in need or a kid that's hurting. So it was a good fit, and it was something I could do to, challenge myself, and so it ended up working out.
Very neat. Very neat.
So
he's better than me. I have 2 left feet. I got these long legs. They don't work like that.
Maybe you'll get nominated.
We joked about taking dance lessons for our wedding. He was like, "I'm not going to do that."
I tell you what, every lesson I went to, somebody was there practicing for their wedding. At least
cool.
one couple, and it was like several different couples. So, but I would go a couple times a week until the last, maybe month and a half or so, and then it was once a week. And
talk about staying in shape. That's definitely a great way to stay in shape as well.
It is, and I didn't realize how challenging it would be from that standpoint, but I would be breathing heavy every single time. And you probably saw the routine that I did. It was the Dirty Dancing routine. So
that's cool.
Lots of lifts.
I had to lift my partner. She was amazing, teaching me all of the different moves, and but that's challenging.
You work a lot of muscles that you don't typically in a normal workout. So
you would think that working out in the gym, which I do, a few days a week at least, you would have that similar, motion, but it was totally different. Just trying to pick somebody else up over your head.
I was going to say, in the last part there where you're putting her over your head and after doing the full dance already tired. No, that's amazing.
If you don't nail that part of it, the whole thing's worthless.
That's the main part.
We were able to
all success.
And were you just
relief is what it was.
And were you just randomly paired up with your partner there, or was this someone that you chose that you happen to know in the past or anything?
So I told Darren, he runs the children's course. I told him, look, this is the routine I would want to do. And so he said, okay, I've got the right person for you. So this young lady's been dancing since she was 4. From Russia.
Oh, really?
She and her husband, are there in the same studio, and they dance professionally. So they're incredible dancers. And both of them kind of tag teamed with helping me figure out, how to not look like I had 2 left feet. So we fooled people, I think, for a little bit, but just a great couple, and do dance lessons for people that are getting married, for people that want to compete, for people that just want to have fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty
check
cool.
them out.
No, I'd be willing to go. I'd be willing to go check it out.
I grew up, I loved dancing. I never did it professionally or anything. I would just dance around the house, dress up in costumes, and just dance
that's fun.
Create routines with my friends, but never took it to the next step of trying to actually do professional dancing. But I think it'd be interesting to try.
I mean, they teach you all kinds of stuff, salsa, ballroom, whatever you want to learn.
There's a couple videos of cruise ships of us dancing. I'm sure it's interesting looking.
Something that you don't want to leak out.
Yeah, there's some things.
Yep.
But to switch over to another lane here, obviously I really would love to talk about, the full thing with Project Opioid, right? Sure. So how did you get involved in that? What made you feel like you had a calling to really get in there and jump in on this?
I wish I had a better story for you on this. It was relocating back to Jacksonville. And so I called Daniel. I mentioned he and I have been close since the 8th grade. So I'd see him a couple times a year when I'd come in town to visit, and we'd talk, periodically throughout the year. And so I reached out and said, hey, I'm ready to relocate back to Jacksonville. If you know of any, jobs that would kind of fit my skill set, let me know. I'd love to apply for those. And he said, actually, we've been trying to hire this position here at the chamber for 6 months and just haven't found the right fit for it. And so I asked him what it was about, and he said it's basically education, awareness, and advocacy on the opioid epidemic. So I said, well, send me the job description. And he did, and I read through it, and it kind of fit my skill set perfectly.
Really cool. Yeah.
So I applied for the job and ended up getting it. I'm sure it didn't hurt that he and I were friends. But it's something that I was able to start from scratch, and it's funded by the Florida Blue Foundation.
Shout out.
Yeah, so I want to shout them out, and then also facilitated through the Jax Chamber. So I'm a chamber employee. I have a colleague that works with me. Her name's Abby. She's the one you would go back and forth with on the emails.
Shout out, Abby. Yeah. I appreciate your help.
Yep. So together we work across the region, so several different counties in North Florida, doing education awareness, doing community events, helping people understand the current narrative of the overdose crisis and where they can go to get help, the different treatment providers that they can connect with, as well as resources that are available to them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then, like, just to give a little background on me when it comes to this stuff, like, I worked at Narcotics Anonymous centers and AA centers, and that's where, like, my first kind of, like, taste on it really kind of came into play, where I would hear these people's stories, and, some were, deep and dark, and you would hear about what they would do just to get drugs, or, just to get a sip of alcohol or something like that. And I was like, it really blew me back. I was like 16 to 18 years old, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, what in the world am I hearing?
Right.
And then you start hearing their backgrounds of things. I'm like, oh, okay, I can kind of see where you went down this alley instead of left, or you went right instead of left. And it's crazy how big the fentanyl crisis has really come in. And obviously not even just fentanyl, a mix of all the other, opioids that are out there, and how much of a grip it has on the community now, especially coming out from other countries, all that kind of stuff. Like, in my personal opinion, I feel like it's kind of like the warfare inside our state, right? Other companies other countries pumping us full of, drugs, things that are illicit, or fentanyl coming in, killing a lot of our population and kind of killing us from the inside out.
Yep.
It's a scary situation. And you were talking about going through all the different counties and everything. Is Duval on, like, the higher side of things, where we have a lot more opioid deaths or opioid problems, or is there other counties around Jacksonville maybe?
Well, we do, because of the amount of people that we have. But comparatively speaking, we've done a great job of reducing overdose deaths. Sheriff Waters has done a tremendous job.
Shout out.
And he's beefed up the squad that focuses on those investigations. So they investigate every overdose death, and then they partner with the state attorney's office to prosecute those drug dealers when they can find them. So they've done a tremendous job. So we've seen a reduction in overdose deaths. The thing that is challenging, as you probably are aware, is when you're talking about data related to this issue, it's usually a year to 2 years behind.
Makes sense.
So when you hear reporting on this, yes, we have seen a reduction in overdose deaths, but we also have seen in recent months an increase in overdose deaths because of different drugs that are coming into the supply. So, you've got people that are working together, collaborating to make sure that these deaths don't occur. And we've seen, some good news when it comes to that. But again, cautiously optimistic.
Of course.
This isn't over by any means. And the challenge that we face also, because we work with the media, Channel 4 is one of our great partners. They keep this forefront, in the public eye. So we're able to work with them to share with them kind of real time what's happening, and so that they, people know this isn't over by a long shot. It's gotten better, but you also have to be vigilant and kind of be aware of what's happening out there. So just making sure people know where they can get Narcan, the nasal spray that reverses an overdose. That's one of the reasons we think, we've seen a reduction in overdose deaths, because a bunch of organizations have worked hard to get that into the community. So in some cases, you'll see an increase in overdoses, but a reduction in overdose deaths. And that's because that medication, is widely available at this point. So,
and is that something, I've never went and bought Narcan myself. Is this something you could literally...
Don't buy it, because we can get it to you for free.
Oh, you can? Okay.
You can buy it at a drugstore.
Like Walgreens? Okay.
It's about $50, anywhere between 40 and 50. But right now we have grant funding for it, so we can supply it to whoever wants it or needs
That's
it.
That's amazing. Okay.
We do, I mentioned we do a lot of education awareness, so we do classes on how to recognize an overdose and what to do if that happens, how to administer Narcan, and then we put it in people's hands.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring that up as well is with the education part of it. I have my half brother Seth. He's 15 years old and he's in school, or 16 now. Shout out Seth. And talking to him about that, I'm like, hey dude, this is real. Like, I know you're used to your parents barking at you, me barking at you about stuff. I'm like, hey bro, you haven't lived as long as I have. I'm only 26, but still, it's like, we've seen things.
Right.
This is a real situation, and those guys are, handing you a pill, or maybe handing your buddy a pill, and you think it's safe because it came from your friend. I'm like, that's not how that works.
Nope.
These people do not care about you.
And that's what we tell people constantly is, unless you get it from your doctor or a reputable pharmacy, your prescription, don't take it, because it could easily be laced with fentanyl. So when I was his age, when I was your half brother's age, it was Say No to Drugs.
Yep.
The DARE, program.
I remember that. Yep.
And so, just for a frame of reference, back then we were talking about a couple thousand overdose deaths a year. Fast forward to just a couple years ago, it was 111,000 overdose deaths in the United States. Now we're down to the 80s, but that's still a lot of people every single day dying.
Of course.
And I've had the unfortunate privilege, I say unfortunate because I'm sitting with parents whose kids have died, but it's a privilege because I get to know them and hear their story. And I can't tell you how many times, they weren't addicted to a substance. They were taking a pill because they thought it was a Adderall. They wanted to get a leg up on finals, or, we got a paper to write. And so they get it from somebody it's not their prescription, and they die.
Yep.
In some cases, kids that have never taken drugs before, they feel overwhelmed. So they're trying to, again, get an edge on whatever it is that they're dealing with, or they're struggling with anxiety or depression. So they think that a Xanax is going to help them, and it's not a Xanax. It's a fake pill disguised as a prescription med, and it kills them.
And that's one of the saddest parts is, like you said, a lot of these kids probably had never touched drugs in their life, and it's that one pill, and it's the end.
In fact, the DEA had a awareness campaign that they were doing for the last few years. One pill can kill. Mm-hmm. So looking back to that DARE program, Say No to Drugs, when I was a kid, you weren't going to die necessarily if you took it once. Yeah. Even if you took it multiple times, you could experiment with stuff. You know? It's bad to say because you never should, but back then it was like you saw people die from drugs that had taken them for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. Now you're seeing somebody take something once, whether it is cocaine or a pill or meth or even marijuana.
That was the thing I was about to say, is like that's become a thing now.
There's even fentanyl and marijuana vapes, and kids have hit those once and it kills them. So that message from back then is more appropriate now. Don't do drugs, say no to drugs. But, when you're talking to kids, we try not to tell them like what they should and shouldn't do. We say, look, y'all aren't going to do, if I tell you not to do it, you're going to go do it.
Yep. Right.
But here's the information. We think you're smart enough to make a good choice. Go make a good choice. Don't put your life in jeopardy.
That's the thing. It's just, as you were saying, kids always push back against what they're told not to do. We were all that way, right? We were all 14, 15 once, and you brought the DARE program. I remember that even when I was younger. I remember that coming up. And even back when I was younger, kids were experimenting and doing things, and we had nothing to do with fentanyl. There was nothing in that time. Like, I remember it was probably towards my junior years when I started hearing fentanyl come up a lot more, and people talking about, hot pills or pressed pills that are disguised as something, and it's become just an epidemic of everything. And,
it really has.
And as you brought up COVID, all that came up, and that just basically put gasoline on the fire and set it off, and we've just been seeing what's going on. But that's amazing, the work that you guys are doing.
Appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of I'm fortunate to work with all different sectors, from, mentioned Sheriff Waters, from JSO to, JFRD to nonprofits, the faith community, colleges and universities, public school system, just all the different business community, which is why we exist through the chamber, to be able to connect businesses to this issue. Because a lot of times you've got business leaders who are impacted by this, but they don't realize how much. It's the leading cost when it comes to healthcare, people that are addicted to substances. And a lot of times employers don't realize that. So there's things we can do to help them with that, but also just to help people stay alive so that they can make good choices. And there's such a stigma attached to this a lot of times. And I used to think this way too before I started doing this work. I would think, why don't people just quit doing it? Like, if it's going to kill them, why don't they just stop? And so many times people think this is just a moral failure. They're just, losers because they don't understand that when you take a substance like this, and sometimes it might be as a result of an injury and then you get overprescribed. That was kind of the first wave of the crisis back in the day. Now it's fentanyl and what we call polydrug, which is just a bunch of different drugs mixed together. But when you have people that were, relying on this substance to help them with pain or whatever, and then it's taken away, they will literally do anything to get that substance back in them because the withdrawal from it is so intense. It's like, and I talked to a young lady, she's doing really well now. She got her kid back because at one point in her lowest, She was living on the street. She was prostituting herself just to be able to not go through withdrawals. She said, it felt like my bones were on fire. It was like 100 times worse than any flu you've ever had. So these people aren't thinking clearly.
Yeah.
These substances literally rewire their brain. And then when you mix in that fentanyl and not knowing how much is in there or how much their body can tolerate, that's where we see all these overdose deaths.
I feel like there's also the mindset of people thinking, well, it's not going to happen to me.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you see it all out in the world, but that's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue as well, I feel, just because you have to look at the statistics and know that it is a real thing all around you.
Right.
It's not just, oh, it's over there. It's never going to come over here.
Yeah. Well, and there's two things related to that. One is, you're talking about young people whose brains haven't fully developed, and so their decision-making skills aren't really there.
Yep.
And then you talk about other people who are so engripped or ensnared in this that they don't even care if they die. They're just chasing the next high.
Yep.
And a lot of times it is to avoid withdrawal.
Yep.
So it's not even because fortunately for me, I've never had any kind of desire to I took an opioid once after I had my wisdom teeth taken out, and I threw up everywhere. It just made me ill. But the other side of that coin is people take it and they immediately feel this euphoric feeling. And so they're hooked right away. And so they're just going to do whatever they can to get it. And if it means risking their life.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've been told over and over again by, people that have been addicted to whatever substance is that first high, you're always chasing it. It's never as intense or never as good as the first time they did it.
No, I agree with you on that. And like having family members who have gone through situations like that, right? Whether it's pain pills or alcoholism.
Yeah.
Those are two major things. And like you brought up that story of it's never the same. You're always chasing that dragon. Right. You're always chasing that. But the cool thing is though, is a lot of people will think that they're down, they're out and not wanting to help them because they feel like that's just them. There's a lot of people out there who've made it through and gotten into sobriety. Like for example, someone famous, right? Steve-O from Jackass, right? He was on everything. If there was any substance under the sun, that man was on it. Now he's a vegan. Now he's super healthy, talks about all that kind of stuff. And I think it's good that people are preaching that there's nothing wrong with just being sober. Right. I feel like that's the thing that it's been popularized in rap music, not even just rap music, just in our media in general, where, taking drugs is cool, blah, 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 and not really seeing that dark side on it, what could really start happening. And I feel like putting that in front of people's faces is very important. Yeah. And you brought up like TK Waters and his administration, what they've been doing, right? Obviously, they cut our murder rate by 50%, which is amazing. That's what Jacksonville is unfortunately known for a while, or we had that nickname. And then we were lucky enough to have Mr. Vic Michelucci on the other day. And Vic, great guy, awesome dude. And he brought Tommy G to Jacksonville, a big YouTuber, and they did a whole behind the scenes thing of the DEA side and like the narcotics side of Jacksonville. Right. It was amazing to see what they do and how they set things up, how they like prepare for raids and everything. I was like, oh wow! And that's the stuff you don't hear about a lot of times. A lot of times that just goes on unnoticed, and no one really talks about that good part there. They just want to talk about when someone's having a bad day or someone took a video that didn't show the first half of the whole situation. They want to just talk down on them.
Pick and choose. But we're fortunate. I mean, we've got a lot of great things here in Jacksonville. The least of which is our law enforcement, our fire rescue. Those gals are top notch at what they do. And we in the past couple of years, that was Project Opioid. We partnered with another partner organization of ours to hold a law enforcement summit, a first responder and law enforcement summit. And so we invited first responders, law enforcement agencies from around the region to come, and just their officers, just their personnel, and then had speakers from around the country to come and talk about some of the best practices, some of the new stuff. And our guys and girls are kind of the leading edge of all of that.
That's right.
Nationally.
That's right.
So we're up there teaching.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So can't say enough good things about TK and his administration and the hardworking folks at JSO and JFRD and all the other first responder agencies that we get to partner with.
That's awesome. Yeah. I say we have a close friend. Shout out TJ. He's a JFRD guy and EMT, as well as going out and putting out fires and everything. And he's one of those guys, like, I'll get a baseline of what's going on in Jax. His fire station's around where we're at now. Okay. I always just like to hear what's going on in the community. What's going on? Is it near my home? Anything I need to be aware of? And he's brought up the whole thing when it comes to overdoses, and he's like, dude, that's what I get called out to, that or unfortunate deaths or anything like that as well. And I always ask him, I'm like, how do you kind of put that in your mind, right? Going and seeing somebody on their worst day or their last day,
right,
and being able to kind of put that to the side and not bring that home with you, because I feel like there's some dark situations that these guys see, and a lot of times it's a thankless job. So shout out to JFRD, JSO, all of them, awesome people.
Are you familiar with LSF Health Systems?
I don't believe I am.
They're an organization that helps fund a lot of the nonprofits that are doing work in this area of mental health and substance use, and they actually have a program for first responders when we're talking about mental health.
Yes, sir.
So just the trauma that they experience and some of the PTSD that they suffer from. They even have an anonymous hotline where those folks or their family members can call and get the help they need without, because sometimes you have first responder law enforcement personnel who are hesitant to come forward and say, I'm struggling, because they feel like they're going to be seen as unfit for duty. Well, we're not going to put you back on the street if you can't, process what you've been through. So they've got great help and great resources for folks who are in those positions that see those things day in and day out. And the other thing I wanted to mention, based on what you said about your friend who's in JFRD and works this area, is when it comes to these overdose deaths and fentanyl especially, it used to be an isolated thing. You could kind of determine what the overdose, where they were going to come from, a certain demographic. And a lot of times the stigma is people who are experiencing homelessness are the ones that struggle with this. There's no respecter of persons when it comes to, overdose deaths these days, because fentanyl is in everybody's drug of choice. It used to be, honestly, a white person pill thing. It was mostly white males in their, 30s, 40s when it first started. And then you had, people that kind of got addicted because of the overprescribing issue, and then it morphed into fentanyl's now in cocaine or meth or marijuana or whatever. And so everybody's using something. Every demographic is using something. So a lot of the families I've sat with who've lost young people have been very wealthy families. And so a lot of times people think it's poor people, or it's those who are experiencing homelessness or whatever stigma we have in our mind, or bias. It's everybody.
It affects everybody.
Even senior adults. Sometimes they'll forget that they've taken their medication. They'll take another opioid, and it'll cause an overdose.
That's tough. Yeah.
You've got challenges with every demographic. So again, just high praise for JFRD, JSO, and those folks that deal with that on a regular basis.
I agree. Like I said, everybody's doing amazing work, and it's awesome, like I said, everything that you're doing, and I appreciate it specifically. It's cool that you're going out there and informing people, because at the end of the day, you can't say that there's not the information out there, especially in today's world where there's the internet. We all really know what's right from wrong. Yeah. And as we said, it comes down to situations, right? There's always something that's going on, or maybe you're cramming for a final, like you said. But to move on to another part of your life that I was excited to talk about as well. Let's talk about the podcast, man.
Let's talk about
the podcast. You had some freaking heavy hitters on there, man.
It's been fun.
It's been crazy to see some of the people you've had on there.
Again, the influence that the chamber has in our region, and just the people that Daniel knows. He's been doing this for over a decade now, and former state representative, former 2-term city council. So you don't get to those positions without knowing and meeting some people. And so when people come to town, he's one of the first people that get to talk to him. So it's been leveraging some of his contacts to get people in those seats that you normally wouldn't know much about, other than what you read on the internet or what you see on the news. And sometimes it's attached to things that aren't always the funnest. But again, these people have been so incredible and gracious enough to sit down for an hour, spend a hour and a half of their time during the day. These are busy people that are making huge decisions for their corporations, but they're giving us a little bit of their time to talk about how they grew up and what they're interested in, and what their family looks like, and what do they do when they're not in the boardroom or whatever. So it's been a lot of fun.
I love that, because that's our style, right? That's our style of podcasting. And one of the main guys that I was super excited about when I saw you guys had him on, Patric Young.
He's so cool.
University of Florida. I watched him the whole time he was in college. I was super excited. I was like, And something that you may not know, Shan, from not knowing who he is, Patric Young, he was a center or power forward, I forget, on the University of Florida's basketball team, was going to be a star in the NBA, ended up going to the NBA, I believe, for a little bit, right? And he had an unfortunate accident where he lost the control of his legs. So now he's in a wheelchair, but I believe he's been able to do some physical therapy, try to start getting some movement again. I don't remember exactly where he's in his healing side of things, but amazing story. He goes out and gives talks to people. Amazing guy from what I've seen, in my personal opinion. So when I saw you guys had him on, that was someone I've reached out to for a while. Obviously, busy man. I totally understand. And I don't believe he lives in Jacksonville, right? He's outside of Jacksonville, if I remember.
I think he's back in town.
Does he live in town now? Okay.
We'll get him on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But them, also, we were talking about Visit Jacksonville. I say the CEO, Michael Corrigan's awesome. Had him on, earlier guest as well. When you brought up things that were like... some stuff that you just see on the news, right? We sat down with Mr. What was the intern CEO of JEA? What was his name?
Was it Mike?
Cohen, I think is what his last name was. Yeah, so we sat down with an interim CEO of JEA when the OG one was going through that whole legal situation and everything. And
I think I wasn't back yet.
Oh, you weren't back for that? Yeah. Like I said, I'm not going to speak out turn too much because I don't know too much about the case, but there was something going on. A guy didn't end up going to jail. But that wasn't the person we sat down with. Sure. But it's cool to sit down with the people here in Jacksonville, right? To hear all the different stories, whether it's someone who's super up high or even a little bit, say, a mom and pop shop in the business, just to get the heartbeat of what's going on in Jax, right? It's amazing to hear those stories. He sat down with Mr. Babby, owner of the Jumbo Shrimp. Shout out to him.
Have you talked with him?
So I have shook hands with him twice from that Southside Businessmen's Club meeting, and you guys did the interview on home base. I want to do that too. He's a super cool guy, busy man. Every time I've gotten in touch with them, obviously the season's going on right now. He's not just involved in the Jumbo Shrimp. He's involved with the Marlins and Jeter and all of them. So
I don't know if you know this, but he owns another minor league baseball team in Akron.
Oh, really?
The Akron Rubber Ducks.
That's freaking cool.
Akron, Ohio?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm originally from Ohio, so I'm like 30 minutes from Akron. And I did not know that he owned them.
You should watch the episode on the podcast.
Definitely.
He goes into that. And he is, I keep saying fascinating for these people, but they all have stories that go beyond what they're doing now here in Jacksonville. They've all got backstories of, they're so interesting that just kind of let you know how they got from where they were to where they are now. And it's really cool.
It is. Yeah. I say his whole story is wild. Really his story is built on believing on himself and just keep pushing. He didn't start out as an owner of anything. He made his way in and had a vision for the Jumbo Shrimp because I remember when they were the Suns, right? Growing up, the Jacksonville Suns. And I remember they got switched to the Jumbo Shrimp. I'm like, what's going on? It's kind of weird, but
he tells that story on the podcast episode.
It's a good episode. I listened to that in my car today when I was driving around my work. I was just doing some background research. But no, like I said, you guys kill it on the podcast, man. I think you guys ask great questions. You guys have awesome guests. What made you kind of get into wanting to start a podcast, right? Like everybody in the world thinks that they can sit here and do this, right? And I'm going to sit here and tell you a lot of work goes into this behind the scenes that you guys don't see. Hours of, research, reaching out, clips, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of work.
Scheduling, editing, especially for y'all because you're doing all that yourself.
Yes, sir.
We have some people. We're fortunate to have some people that work on that for us, and we get to just come in and sit down and do the interview. But I look at all the stuff that happens that it takes just to get an episode out if you're going to do it correctly, which I've looked at y'all's and you're doing it right.
I appreciate it.
Down to the social media clips and the reels and the shorts and all the stuff that's necessary to get it promoted at this point. But people don't realize how challenging it is. But for me, the reason I got into it kind of started with, I've done some podcasts for Project Opioid. If you're connected to the chamber, sometimes you're seen as a subject matter expert on stuff, even if you're not. So you get opportunities to sit down because of who you know, not necessarily what you know. But fortunately, I've been able to have some of those opportunities. And I have a friend, Eric Ross. Do you know Eric?
I don't believe I do.
He has a podcast called What the Health Just Happened.
Okay.
I say podcast. He calls it a radio show because they're on the radio.
Oh, wow.
But it's also a podcast.
That's cool.
But, he'll have to take into account we can't just talk like we're talking. You have to, 30 minutes and then because they have commercials and stuff for the radio. But he had me on for Project Opioid stuff and ended up being on like 4 times with him.
That's awesome.
And I said, you should have Daniel on. And so we were able to connect Daniel with him, and Daniel came on and did his podcast. And it's a lot of fun. As you know, doing this is fun.
Yeah.
So Daniel really enjoyed it. And Daniel is, if you don't know him, he's very driven, competitive like me, and innovative. So he's not just going to kind of rest on his laurels and all the stuff that's happened good, in the chamber. He's going to push forward and try new things, even if it's risky. And so he just came to me one day and said, "Hey, I think I want to do a podcast. Like, I think we could do something through the chamber. Would you co-host with me?" I was like, "Yes, that seems like so much fun." Cause we have conversations all the time, Daniel and I, that I enjoy. And, what could be more fun than having somebody that's really interesting, that's successful, sit down and share some of their secrets, or, just share how they've gotten to the point where they are. So we just kept taking steps, and eventually it just happened.
Yeah.
And now we're, one season in, planning for the second season. I already have some guests lined up that you're going to think are really good guests as well. So, we did a little bit different. I know you're doing it every week, which I can't even imagine.
It's busy.
It is.
Yep.
We did a 15 episode season, and then took some time, and we'll start recording again here soon.
It's smart. No, it's definitely a smart way. And I don't know if you guys are aware of the vastness of podcasts here in Jacksonville.
Yes.
There's, I don't know if you've ever heard of Jax Podcasters United, but there are a networking group of all 150, 180 podcasts here in Jacksonville. We get together once a quarter and we do workshops. So whether it's learning how to, hey, this is how you can edit this maybe a little bit better to get what you're looking for, or audio editing, or if you're interested and you want to get sponsorships, how do you do that? Kind of taking people through that steps, because all that stuff was me kind of just going through emailing people and just getting involved. And it's cool that outlet's out there. Shout out to Botter and Beth, his wife now. They're doing great stuff, and they set this up for podcasters in Jacksonville.
That's cool.
And it's an awesome thing. Like I said, we meet up once a quarter. There's a whole mix of things that everybody's doing, and also just shaking hands.
Right.
The way with podcasting, one, I love people's stories, but two is networking. I'm 26 years old. Shan's 27, and my thing is I like being the youngest guy in the room, and no matter what.
There's an advantage to it.
It is, because just like when you were at Southside Businessmen's Club, I walked up and shook your hand. I don't care. I'm going to come up and say hi, because you just never know. You never know who you meet, who can help change your life, or maybe you help them out in some way, shape, or form, and just building that connection around Jacksonville. There's never anything wrong with having too many friends.
And what I've learned about just being at the chamber the last few years is that the people that are, networking through those types of, situations, whether it be a chamber event or something like what you're talking about, is people they don't act like they're too good for people. Jacksonville is a very collaborative town, to the point that even competitors work together. It's shocking to me sometimes, for the betterment of Jacksonville. Like we're talking about downtown and development for downtown. You've got people that are setting aside some of their, competitive. Now these people are go-getters, and they want to, beat their competition. But for stuff like that, they'll come together and work together. And so, I can't even think of a time where I tried to connect with somebody and they were rude, or they may not have time because they're very busy people, but they're at least doing what they can to help. And I think that's unique.
Yeah.
And as we talk to some of these guests that we have, they will concur. It's like they've been in places before where people aren't like that, and it's cutthroat. Jacksonville's a little different.
It is. And that's the thing I like about the whole podcast community, right? Is everybody has their own podcast. Everybody wants to be Joe Rogan, right?
Right.
We all want it. That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, a bunch of my guests I've had on here are podcasters. I love talking to people because you guys are interested in similar things that I am. There's some people who are just interested in art, and their podcast is about art. Some is about sports. Some is about betting. The Jacksonville community. That's the thing I find cool, is we're all kind of going towards the same goal of just growing it. And I like the collaborative side of things. I feel like that's how my show has grown, is through collaborating with people, sitting down, having conversations with, even like me and you have a similar style of podcast, right? There's I don't have any hate towards it. There's no point of doing that. I like getting to meeting, picking your brain, hearing how you started it, how you get these guests on there, because it's hard. That's the big question that a lot of people ask me. They're like, how'd you get that guy on? I'm like, I either saw him in person or I sent them emails.
Stalked him.
Yeah, no, dead serious.
Reach out.
Yeah, no, dead serious, and just staying consistent, right? Like I reached out a couple weeks ago to Abby and reaching out about you and seeing if you had some time. And, the year before you were busy. I had some traveling that I was doing, and at the end of the day, it took a year, but you're here today, and that's the main thing.
And I'm probably more interesting a year later than I would have been a year ago. So
I think you've always been interesting. Like I said, you've been on my radar. I literally have lists of people who I want to, and checking on the list as I go on. And as we have people on, it's always an open invitation. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoy everything that you guys are doing, and got a couple more questions for you. So
before I forget, share that list with me, and if I can help connect you. And then there's a couple people that I've already mentioned that I think would be great guests for you.
Yeah, if you can put a word in. Yeah. And like I said, charities, nonprofits, all this stuff, I love that stuff. And they don't have to come here either. I can come to them as well. Right. So, because I know sometimes it's like, oh, your podcast is in your house. And I'm like, yeah.
Well, if they could see your, setup, they would think differently. But, a place like the Children's Course would be great to highlight their,
I'd be more than happy.
Facility. So
that's what we did with Dreams Come True. We went to their facility because they wanted to show and have a full panoramic view of what they have going on there.
That place is really cool.
Yeah.
That room that they have, where
it's the Tebow room and everything. Yeah, no, and same with Manifest Distillery. I went on site for them, and that was right after the fire was across the street for them, where it almost burned down their whole thing. It was a crazy conversation we had.
Shout out to Manifest.
That's right.
They were the home for most of our episodes in season 1 for Speak Easy Jax. So.
They're great people. And what made you guys want to go the Speak Easy style? What was the name? How'd that all kind of come to be?
I mean, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out the name.
It's hard, isn't it?
It is. And we wanted it to convey a conversation. Both Daniel and I enjoy bourbon.
Yeah.
It just felt like a natural fit with, what we were trying to accomplish with the conversations. And if you notice, most of the time, not every time, but a lot of times we'll have a drink with our guests. It'll be their drink of choice. Sometimes, if somebody is not a drinker of alcohol, we may have, with John Payton, we had his protein shake.
That's cool.
His awesome. Protein shake that he makes every morning and has for the last 20 years.
That's awesome.
He brought it in and we drank his protein shake together. So then we had Eric Mann on, the CEO of the YMCA, First Coast YMCA.
Oh, wow.
And he brought a nice bottle of wine from South Africa, and Daniel brought one that he picked up in Italy, and then I had a box wine that I got from Publix that afternoon.
Nothing wrong with a box wine.
That afternoon, and so they shared their wine, and then I pulled mine out from
slap the bag real quick.
So just having fun with that. So it was a way that we could kind of have a drink with our guests, and it all just kind of came together and fit together.
That's cool. And we've done that in the past too. If someone seems a little, we got the lights, the camera, everybody's some people get a little tensed up, we'll have a drink. We have a whole liquor.
I saw that. You got a great selection over there.
There's stuff from Mexico over there. There's stuff from Bahamas, all kinds of stuff that we've done. And, sometimes if someone's a little nervous, we'll either take a shot or we'll have a drink on the show, loosening them up a little bit, because I can understand if you don't do this all the time, it can be a little weird.
Right.
But I think the art of conversation is something that's getting lost over time, where we're all involved on social media, looking at a small clip where it just says 6 words and that's all it is. I think now that people have seen that and have a starvation for long form conversation, really let someone put their story out there instead of what you see the news where it's a 30-second clip and they cut off the beginning and end of what the full sentence was. So I think it's amazing what you guys are doing. And what is there someone big on your list? If you could, anybody in the world, right? Anybody you could have on the show, is there a big person or anybody that's a dream guest of yours, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
So as a lover of Jacksonville and the Jaguars and football.
That's right. Go Jags.
I'd love to have Trevor on.
Yeah. That'd be sweet. He was just on Pardon My Take today.
Yeah.
Yep. SA.
So who knows? You never know what could happen. We had Mark Lamping on season 1.
I saw that. Yep.
And you saw Brunell was on.
That was huge. I was like, that's crazy to see him on there. Yeah.
It was so much fun. We talked ball after the cameras. We try to keep it to an hour. 55 minutes to an hour or whatever, and then you add you throw some sponsorships in, and you have a couple minutes there, here and there. But we stayed and talked with him for a while after. It was just a lot of fun. It's really cool.
Yeah, I got a cool story for you for the Jaguars. I got 2 stories. One, my very first job ever, I've sold Christmas trees on the side of the road, right? Like those stands.
Yeah.
And Paul Puslesny would come to our stand every single time because he lived around this area that we're in. And he would come and get like a 3-foot tree, 4-foot tree, and you put it in his truck, $100. And nicest guy, he would stay, take pictures with anybody that asked him to do it. He is one of the biggest men I've ever seen in my life. Like, I'm tall, but just his shoulders. Right. He's 2 of me side by side, and nicest guy. I thought he was going to be a little bit louder of a person, but he was very soft spoken, very intellectual. When you talk to him, I was like, that's freaking. It's just cool. You have this mindset of what you think the person is, and you meet him, you're like, oh wait, he's different than what I thought.
Yeah.
And super nice guy. Second story for you. My dad worked with Microsoft for a little while and was involved in a bunch of things. And I actually got to play Madden on the Jumbotron of the Jags Stadium before.
Really?
Yeah, I was probably like 14, 15 years old, and they had some kind of Microsoft get-together, and I was where the Bud Zone is, playing from across the stadium, getting to play Madden on the whole screen with someone else beside me. I thought that was one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yeah, for sure. Travis Hunter would be cool to have.
That would be, yeah. And he's popped out.
Yeah,
he's been popping out at places though.
He's not afraid to get in the mix, and like he's embraced Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Friend of mine, Mark Braddock, that does 904 pop-up. Have y'all been?
Yeah,
we've walked through there. I've handed out stickers there in the past. Yeah.
So he's the one that created that, and he also owns 8103 Clothing. So he ends up talking to a lot of those guys, and he met with Travis came out to 904 pop-up, and they talked, and he's got videos that he posted to his social. But I'm a huge fan of Mark. In fact, we're doing an event with him out at the beach on August 31st.
Okay.
That's International Overdose Awareness Day.
Nice.
Okay.
So last year we did a walk in memory of those who've passed, and then also had resources there, did a Narcan training. And so we're doing it again, but we've kind of pulled him into it. His brother actually died of an overdose. And so he wants to get more involved and share that story. And so he's a part of the event. And then, of course, his influence with he's got thousands of vendors that he knows, and people that he can help us kind of reach with this message of all the stuff we've been talking about.
Of course.
So Mark's a fascinating dude as well.
Yeah.
And works really hard, but he knows Travis, so
that's pretty cool.
You never know what could happen.
Hey man, that's the whole point.
It's not too far of a dream.
Right.
Friends in high places. And I'm excited to see what the next season comes out with.
Me too.
See what you guys got going on. Final couple questions for you here. So, you Jags fan, right?
Huge fan.
What's our record this year? What do you think we go this year?
Jaguar fans are optimistic, probably the most optimistic in the NFL, right?
Yep.
I'm always thinking this year's our year.
Same. I'm always thinking that too.
But I mean, you don't want to say Travis Hunter's the savior, because I don't think one person can be. But we were talking to Mark, and he even mentioned this. I asked him this question on the podcast because we also had Frank Frangie on, and he told us that about most quarterbacks about 5 years in, that's when they hit their stride.
Yeah.
So Trevor's coming on.
And he just had a kid, and he just had a baby. I think the baby boom comes in this year.
So I really feel like, and we shored up some of those positions that we needed help in, I feel like we could have a playoff run.
I think we can too. I definitely do as well. I'm excited. I'm optimistic, obviously. Being a Jags fan my whole life. I remember watching Maurice Jones-Drew, David Garrard growing up, all of them. I think we make it a second round of the playoffs. That's my guess, right?
Okay.
That's my guess. If we exceed that, I'm perfectly happy with that. I think we did shore up, some offensive linemen, defensive linemen, someone who needs to protect Trevor because we need him healthy. With some of the past quarterbacks we've had have been a little rough, second strings. But as long as we're above 500, give us a little hope. Obviously, first year of a new head coach, a whole new regime in there. I'm excited to see what we can do. And I don't know if the bottle's over there. I did get a bottle with the Jags on it. I think it was one of David Garrard's whiskeys. It was all numbered and everything. That's the bottle I'm saving until we win a Super Bowl.
Okay.
I'll pop that. So hopefully it's not too much of an aged fine bottle of alcohol, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But no, I think the Jaguars are on a good pace. I'm excited to see Trevor Lawrence grow and continue doing this thing. I think we will. I think the Jaguars, I'm calling it now. I say within 5 years, I think we can win a Super Bowl if everything stays in the plan.
Well, I mean, you've got an owner who's motivated to make it happen, and you got a new head coach with a lot of youth on the staff, and He had that little slip up when he first got here with the Duval thing.
That was tough. That was a tough look.
Something that we teased about on the podcast a little bit, but it seems like he's done all the right things since then. And I don't know. I'm pretty excited every year, but I'm especially excited this year for what lies ahead. I
am too. And me and Shannon have a family fantasy football league that we do every year. She plays fantasy.
I'm a very competitive person.
Are you?
Yeah.
Maybe you need to do some Spartan races.
That's all I'm saying.
I definitely have to get in shape for that. But
she was an athlete. She played basketball, ran track in high school, did all that
flag
stuff.
Football and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I wish would have been more popular when my girls were coming through.
Yes.
Was flag football, but and my youngest played a lot of volleyball. My oldest played some tennis.
Nice.
They both did soccer coming up, but youngest Whitney played in college and extended her career a little bit.
Wow, good for her.
Yeah, so it got her a scholarship, paid for her undergrad, and
there you go.
And,
nothing wrong with saving some money.
Exactly. So
is she the one who graduated from Georgia?
She did.
Congrats.
Yeah,
I'm a Florida fan. I have to say I'm wearing a Gator shirt, but that's amazing. That's
I'm
a big
Florida
school.
fan too. She's actually a Florida fan.
That's right.
She was brave enough to wear a Florida sweatshirt to class at Georgia. So I have one Georgia polo that I would wear to Athens when I would visit her. I don't know that I'll need it again.
Yeah.
I don't think, I'm going back. Although Athens is a pretty cool little town.
I've heard.
Doesn't compare to Gainesville. But yeah, she loves the state of Georgia. Just something about it for her, and she ended up getting a graduate assistantship there, so that paid for her grad school too. So she's coming out of school pretty much debt free.
Good for her.
Yeah,
proud dad moment right there for you. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's the greatest thing I think that I've ever accomplished. Is just being a dad to those girls. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So. Last two questions here for you. So obviously we've talked about everything that you do, right? Whether it's work, professional, all that kind of stuff, right? What's a perfect day off for you? Is there such thing as a day off for you? Oh yeah. Okay. I'm going to make sure that I get some days off. For me, I'm a fan of the beach. So a getaway, whether it's like just a weekend away to a beach and sitting in the sand, feet in the sand, just kind of watching the waves roll in. Just getting some sun on my face. That's kind of the ideal thing for me. It helps me decompress better than probably anything else. So all my vacations tend to be tropical. I need to start branching out a little bit, but I'll just go somewhere tropical and, sit with a drink in your hand and just relax a little bit. So sounds like I do like golf too. I'm not that good at it. I'm terrible at it. I love playing it. Yeah. So. I played probably damn near every course here in Jacksonville now. Say me and my buddies play every weekend, and I, like I said, terrible golfer. What's your handicap? Oh gosh, it's probably like 18, 20 to be 100% honest with you. It's terrible. I've been playing for about 3 years now, some more consistent now. I've definitely gotten a lot better. I need to get measured for clubs is really the main thing with how big I am. I was lucky enough back in the day, I did pest control before I did what I do now. And there was a bag of clubs, all tailor-made, nice clubs and everything. And I was treating a house that ended up getting abandoned. JWB was the company, the rental company here in Jax. And I called them. I was like, hey, found this bag in here. I know you guys are kind of just tearing everything out of the house. Do you guys want these? So I take them. I was like, okay. So it was a full bag, everything from your 5-iron down to your 9, pitching wedge, all that stuff, driver. So I ended up getting that bag, and still is the bag I use to this day, and clubs I still use to this day. TaylorMade too. Yeah, man. I have the rocket balls. But what are I think they're a burner set, if I remember correctly, is what mine is. And, I've added things, taken things out, got new driver, all that kind of stuff. I feel like if I get measured for clubs for a person of my size, I think I could do a little bit better. Not saying it's going to be turned into Tiger Woods or anything, but that's one of more of my things nowadays, that it's hard to find something that can keep your mind occupied for hours, right? We're all used to looking at our phones the whole time. Whenever I go play golf with my buddies, literally throw the phone in the cart and just go out there and talk trash with my buddies, and then put a couple little bets on things. Usually they take my money, but so that's your idea. Except when I go out. Yeah. That's your idea of a good day off? A perfect day off for me is going out. One of my main thing is spend time with her. Been very lucky. We've been together for going on 10 years now. We met whenever I was 18, ended up being working at a restaurant. I was pretty much a general manager for Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Okay. At 18 years old, gave me fan. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Ended up taking over her store in the town center area. Became good friends, started dating. 1 month into us dating, she moved in, and this is us now. Wow. Going on 2 years of marriage now. Very, very proud. proud, talking about starting a family here soon.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I've been very, very lucky. So doing that. So big thing is spend time with her. The golf course with my buddies. I'm very lucky to have guys I've known for 20 years now.
Yeah.
And like my best man, Nolan, I literally met him when I was 5. And we are like brothers. His mom is my other mom. And just been able to grow up that way. So spending time with family, friends, that's my perfect day off. So
what about you?
I'm kind of like you. I love going to the pool or the beach. More so the pool because sand isn't my favorite thing. Yeah. And also I like to see what I'm swimming in.
Right.
But just getting some sun on me, have a nice book or something, and I'm set. Have a good drink, like you said.
So, life hack for you on the sand. The only reason I know this because my youngest played some beach volleyball. But if you have some powder, like just baby powder or whatever, and a little paintbrush, and pour it on the sand, it just falls right off.
I didn't know that either. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah.
I'll have to get some baby powder.
Because as you can imagine, they get all sweaty and they jump. They're rolling around the sand and stuff. So I couldn't do that. That would drive me crazy.
Yeah,
I'm the same way.
But that worked.
That's a good hack. Thank you. I will definitely keep that in mind anytime going forward.
Do you have any final questions, my love?
Not that I can think of. This has been a great episode. It's amazing hearing everything that you're involved in and helping the community. It's great.
I love Jacksonville as y'all do, and I think there's a lot of people that want to see it be its best.
Yes.
And I think when people from the outside look at it, sometimes they don't know how rich it is, and how when I say rich, just how much we have to offer, and how much. I don't even like the word potential because it's almost here.
Yes, sir.
And so I think people are starting to recognize, as we start getting this national exposure for many different reasons. People will start paying attention to what we have to offer. But I just love folks like you that are, out promoting the city that you love. That's what we're doing through our podcast and just the work that we're doing through the chamber. So
it's crazy. I just have one thing to add. Tim, our last guest, he said how we were on the top, most boring states or cities.
Did you see that?
Yeah. What is that?
They're full of it. They're so full of it.
Like you said, there's so much to offer here. Yeah. People just aren't looking in the right spots.
I think, I don't know, if you came downtown, and you weren't doing your research anymore, all you have to do is go to TikTok and see that there's so many good restaurants, many good bars popping up. But, I guess it depends on what you're used to, too. If you come from a city that has tons of stuff already.
We can keep it a hidden gem. That's perfectly fine with me. Keep Jacksonville the way it is. Make sure nothing changes, and just keep on growing. And I think Jacksonville is one of those cities that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, especially the media side. Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of podcasts popping up. Obviously, the sports teams are kind of growing here. Obviously, I think a lot of people are talking about more than just football coming to Jacksonville, which is interesting. So I think people are going to sleep on it for a little while, and then sooner or later, Jacksonville will be very much in the front of their face.
Well, and we also compete with Miami and Tampa, Orlando, Tampa.
Yep.
I mean, those are all great places.
Jacksonville's better in my opinion. I've been to all those places.
I'd live the other places if I thought they were, better than Jacksonville. But they're great. They're nice to visit, but I can't wait to get back here.
Yes, sir. So, like I said, this has been an amazing episode. I have one final question for you. So, this is a question. Anytime it's someone's first time on the podcast, we always end with this question. And it's, do you feel successful? And if you do or do not, in what ways?
I feel so. My personality is always looking to what's next. So as I accomplish something, I don't take much time to celebrate it. I probably should.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, but it's always about, okay, well, what's next? What can we work on next? And with the job that I do, there's always a what is next? How do we address this issue? Because it's always kind of morphing and pivoting, and it's always something different. So sometimes, I feel successful when we go home and we know we've helped connect somebody to a treatment provider or to a resource, or we can point to, the counties that we're working in seeing a reduction in overdose deaths, but then it's like it never ends. So you just keep going. I mentioned my daughters. I've done a lot wrong as a parent. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do is being a parent, at least if you're trying to do it right.
Yeah.
But, looking at the success they've had and the women that they are, knowing that at least I didn't do too many things horrible to kind of send them on the wrong path. And then I look at the relationships I have with friends around me, and that feels like a success. You know, when you've got the type of people that you know are supportive of you and, you know, care about you. And, you know, I have a lot of acquaintances in the job that I'm in. I get to meet a lot of people, but my circle is pretty small. But when I look at those people that I consider my true friends, I mean, I can't help but feel like I've accomplished something there.
That's amazing.
So
I like it.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why I ended on that question is because everybody answers it differently. No one has ever given me the same exact answer twice, you know? And I think it kind of makes you stop and take a look for a second, like, do I feel successful? Because we're all pushing towards perfection every single day and not taking that step to sit back and be like, look at what I've accomplished, right?
Yeah.
You know, we were all just babies one day and full of potential. Like you said, the word potential, right? And what did you do with that potential? Obviously, it sounds like you've lived a very rich life, you know, when it comes to having your daughters, obviously them, everything that you're doing in the community. So I think you're doing an amazing job, at least on my peripheral side of things. I think you look successful, in my personal opinion.
Appreciate it. And I got a perfect score on Dancing with the Stars.
Right.
So
That's right.
That's my claim to fame, I guess. So.
Well, like I said, it's been an amazing episode. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I'm glad that we were finally able to make this work. And you guys always have an open invitation. If you want to bring your co-host in next time, be more than happy to bring him in and sit down and have another conversation with everybody.
This has been a lot of fun. I'm a huge fan of y'all's, and I'm going to promote you as much as I possibly can. So.
I appreciate it. Well, before we get out of here today, if you want to let everybody know where they can check out, you know, Project Opioid, y'all's podcast, anything you want to promote here, please let everybody know where they can find it.
At Project Opioid Jax on Instagram and Facebook. I think we have an X, but we're not on it much.
I understand.
Speak Easy Jax. We have a link tree for that, which has all the podcast platforms and then our social media stuff. And then TJ Ward FL for Instagram and Facebook for personal stuff.
Yes, sir. Well, guys, make sure you guys go give him a follow on all the social media. Make sure you guys go check out the Speak Easy, man. The podcast is freaking awesome. You guys are hearing so much good stuff, hearing from community leaders all from around Jacksonville, hearing stories that you really wouldn't get to hear a lot of times. A lot of these people are kind of private, so it's really cool to check them out. Everything will be linked down in the description below, so make sure you guys click the links, check out everything they got going on. If you guys have any questions or you know the Project Opioid side of things came up and you have questions, make sure y'all reach out. They got plenty of information. And when did you say that that next event you guys are doing with
August 31st down at Seawalk Pavilion from 9 a.m. to noon?
Okay, perfect.
So,
I'll make sure I put that in there as well for everybody. So go check all that good stuff out. They're doing amazing things in the community, and you guys will be more than happy to check that stuff out. And while we're sitting here talking about following people, make sure you guys give us a follow on the social media. It's going to be at Who Are You Pod from everything from Instagram, TikTok, as I say, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the normal spots. We're all on there. Make sure you guys check out the YouTube channel as well. If you guys are checking us out on here right now, you're already on there. Make sure you press that subscribe button. It helps us out, helps us get amazing guests like we're sitting down with today. And then my final thing is, if you feel like you'd be a good fit for the show, you're an entrepreneur, an artist, you run a nonprofit, really a mix of anything, shoot me an email. It's going to be at whoareyoupod@yahoo.com, or you can shoot me a DM on any of our social media channels. But as I say every single week, y'all, thank you so much for checking us out, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.